who see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order. On. Please.
I'd like to introduce our Canyon County Sheriff's Office Chaplain, Reverend Bill Roscoe, to say the invocation.
As always, it's an honor to be here today. It's an honor to have a part in the Sheriff's Office. And I want to say thank you to all of you men and women behind the bench. We appreciate you as civilians more than I could ever say. In the first 5 months of this year, 37 law enforcement officers died in the line of duty. 22 of those deaths were caused by felonious assault, and 18 were by gunfire. Every time you put on your badge, you put your life on the line for the rest of us. And for that, we owe you a debt of gratitude. I want to say thank you, officers, deputies, troopers, detectives, correctional officers, probation and parole officers, dispatchers, and support staff. Your service and you and your service are sincerely appreciated. Join me in prayer. Almighty God, we thank you for this time to honor the fallen and to remember the sacrifice that they made so that others could live in peace and safety. We pray, God, that even now you would give comfort to those who mourn and to those whose hearts are aching with the pain of loss. Be their strength and their hope. And God, we ask that you will protect those who today stand between the wicked and the innocent, giving wisdom, courage, and peace. We invite your presence here with us, and we ask that you would bless this time in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Thank you to the Army National Guard, Honor Guard for providing us with the colors today, and of course Lieutenant Boise for the bagpipes. We will see them both again. I'd like to also thank a good friend of mine, a great friend of mine, Al Colbert, for singing the national anthem for us today. Thank you. Your schedule is incredibly tight today, and I know you'll have travel this afternoon to do another function for the youth of our society, so we appreciate you making the time to be here. I'm Kieran Donahue, I'm the Canyon County Sheriff, and a great thank you to all of our staff and volunteers who put this event together each year. This is our fourth year, our fourth annual, and to Dave, Reverend of this fine institution here, thank you so much for you and your staff for allowing us to be here year after year and taking such great care of us. When it's raining outside, you welcome us in, and we appreciate that very much, so thank you. A couple of other folks, obviously, there's people that have joined us today, and our speakers today are also good friends of mine, and we are proud to have them. I see one of them is not up here. John, if you could join us on the stage. Sorry. John Parsons is going to be speaking with us today from the Nampa Police Department. To his right is former chief of Nampa Police Department and the law enforcement director of the College of Western Idaho law enforcement program, Leroy Forsman. Thank you for being here today. And a very good friend and colleague as well. Most of you know him in the room. He is the special agent in charge of the Boise FBI, and that is my good friend Doug Hart, past supervisor of the Metro Violent Crime and Gang Task Force. And of course, to my right is a dear friend of all of ours and a stalwart person in our communities and the communities throughout the state of Idaho, our United States Attorney for the District of Idaho, Wendy Olson. Wendy, thank you for joining us once again. Before I introduce our musical guests, I just want to take a moment to thank each of you for making time in your busy day. And as I look on the crowd, I see, of course, Commissioner Tom Dale, the Mayor of Caldwell, our host, Mayor Eric Nancolis, our Mayor of Middleton and colleague, Mayor Darren Taylor, and I saw Mike Pollard, City Councilman of Caldwell here. I'm looking through the crowd to see if I'm missing any other representatives or senators or anyone else. Who am I looking for?
Melinda Spicer.
Oh, Melinda did sneak in. I saw she's sitting right next to Mike Pollard, who works for Senator Rice's office. Melinda, thank you so much. I know you're a great supporter of law enforcement and what we do, and all of our guests. So if I've left someone out, as always, I'll take full responsibility. It's my fault. So these are both good days and bad days for those of us in law enforcement, and of course our families, our friends, the business people of our communities. Rely upon the men and women in uniform here today, and certainly the men and women who have passed away giving service to their not just their communities, but truly to their state and to their country. And this is always a very solemn experience for me, speaking at this event, and I'm very honored to be here to do so. I don't think we can underline enough the sacrifices each of these men and women in law enforcement, those that are with us today, those that are out on the street who could not be here today, doing the functions of law enforcement, what they give up, but oftentimes, and I know it's often said, that the families of these individuals give up so much as well. And I know that you, family members of the law enforcement officers, both past and present, know what I mean when I say that. It's truly a remarkable brotherhood that people, and you've heard me say it many times, every one of these men and women are called to this service. There's not a person I know in law enforcement who has not been called by a higher power to do what we do. And that is a very small percentage of those individuals get to be a law enforcement officer when we look across the country and nationwide. So what an honor to be able to be one of those individuals, that we were called and had the ability and the fortitude to be among those ranks. I can't underline the importance of that enough. And so with that, I want us all to remember, of course, those who have passed before us, and unfortunately there will be those who pass after this day as well. And as hard as that is to understand or to come to grips with, it's a reality. And these people are there because we believe in the mission. And the mission is to keep our people safe, to stand before all others and say, not today, not on my watch, or tonight. And to be that point in the spear, and that first and that last line of defense. That is our job. And we stand here very, very proudly in holding that position. And we will always hold that position. Regardless of how much evil comes our way, we will never falter. So with that, I would like to turn the time over to our musical arrangement, who has joined us every year that we have done this. Is this no? Yes. So could we have the choir come to the stage, please? And if you have not heard them before, you're in for a pleasant surprise. This is the Meridian Children's Choir with Jen and Melinda. Jen, I always crucify your name, so I'm not going to. I'll have it at the end of the back of the room for people to read it themselves. But, well, with a name like Kieran, I get it. So. All right, Jen, thank you. Now, Jen, as I understand it, this is a song that you produced, wrote for this event and for other events, but keep in mind as they sing this song, this is a song that Jen put pen to paper and produced for us for today, for law enforcement. Thank you.
One small tear on a quiet pond, rippling out as it reaches on, starts the stream like a shape, but can you walk one by one? The raindrops fall. I will remember and be the rain, be the echo of their name. We won't forget. We won't forget. As is there. will remember.
And be the rain.
Thank you. That was beautiful as always, and Jen, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us and putting it on paper. That was truly amazing. Our first speaker today is, as I mentioned before, the United States Attorney for the District of Idaho. I've spent many hours with this lady's office, many long hours, working with cases from our jurisdiction and other jurisdictions. There's never been a time in all the years I've known her, and that's many years, probably closing in on close to a decade now, that this fine woman has not stood for what law enforcement stands for, and that she understands the sacrifices you make in the job you do to bring the cases to her office. So with that, Wendy yields.
Thank you, Kieran, for your kind introduction, and for your leadership at the Canyon County Sheriff's Office, and for your partnership in public safety. I want to thank you for all that you've done to bring us together this afternoon for this special ceremony, the 4th Annual Canyon County Law Enforcement Memorial Ceremony. It's an honor for me to be here again this year. I consider coming here to be one of the most important things that I do, year in and year out. It's an opportunity to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, to honor their memory, and to honor the many fine men and women in law enforcement who protect us in our communities day in and day out. And it's an opportunity to share this day with the elected officials who support law enforcement, and that support is so important to having the resources and being able to do the things that they need to do to keep our communities safe. It's just truly an honor to participate in this observance, and it's my privilege to be here among so many dedicated public servants and proud members of Idaho's law enforcement community. It's also a pleasure year in and year out to see the Meridian Children's Chorus. I always hope when Kieran invites me to see that you will be here as well. It really brings an extra special feeling of remembrance to this ceremony. As most of you know, ceremonies like this one are occurring throughout our state and throughout the country this week. A week designated in 1962 as National Police Week by President John F. Kennedy. In communities large and small, all across Idaho, all across the United States, we take time during this week to recognize the service and sacrifice of U.S. law enforcement officers and to pay special recognition to those who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and the protection of others. This year in Idaho, at a ceremony yesterday at the Idaho Peace Officers Memorial, we added the name of Sergeant Greg Moore of the Coeur d'Alene Police Department, who lost his life in the line of duty just over a year ago in early May of 2015. I truly hope that his name will be the last to be added to that memorial, and that the rose honoring his name in the wreaths here this afternoon will be the last entered here. I do know, however, that Sergeant Moore will not be the last police officer to face danger and uncertainty in the line of duty. Every day, law enforcement officers leave their homes and their families to do their jobs, to go into neighborhoods rich and poor, white and black, to go into our neighborhoods. And they go to protect us. As FBI Director James Comey has said, when you dial 911, whether you are white or black, the cops come, and they come quickly, whether they are white or black. That's what cops do. Every day, men and women in uniform and in plain clothes put themselves in harm's way to secure our communities and to protect our values and to make real the promise of liberty and justice for all. While we pause today to remember those who made that ultimate sacrifice to protect and secure our communities, let us also on this day and during this police week take the time and make the effort to improve the relationship between law enforcement officers and the communities they serve. As events in Baltimore, Ferguson, Seattle, Cleveland, South Carolina, and most recently San Francisco have shown us, where police and community member encounters result in the tragic and sometimes unexplainable loss of lives, our communities act with anger, disbelief, and protest, often meaning that they have too long experienced injustice. We remain at a critical point in this country in the relationship between law enforcement officers and the communities we serve, and we remain at a critical point in our criminal justice system. As Idahoans, we must all work together to ensure that we, as law enforcement officers and officials, and as community members, are building community trust. We must know the people in the communities we serve, and in our communities, we must get to know the law enforcement officers who are sworn to protect us. We cannot afford to let the relationships between community members and police officers in Idaho become us versus them relationships. We in law enforcement must ensure that our actions are fair, unbiased, and transparent. We must understand that we serve and protect those who peacefully protest government action or inaction, just as we serve and protect those who support us. Toward that end, and in partnership with U.S. Marshal Brian Underwood, we have called together law enforcement leaders and community advocates across the state to meet and discuss how law enforcement officers and community groups can better work together and better understand each other. And I've been pleased to see that both groups are committed to a strong relationship and to strong communication, and to seeing each other fully as all members of one community, all with the goal of improving public safety. Since the first law enforcement officer death in the United States in 1791, more than 20,000 officers have been killed in the line of duty. They came from small towns and big cities. They were police officers, sheriff's deputies, federal agents. They were black and white, Hispanic and Asian American, gay and straight, celebrated and unknown. They were mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, neighbors and friends. They were ours. Today, as we have our own ceremony here in Canyon County, and as we read aloud the names and remember the events that tragically took the lives of each of the Idaho law enforcement officers honored today, I join you in recognizing their courage, their fidelity, and their heroic final actions. And I join you in pledging that their work and their sacrifice will never be forgotten. The women and men whose names we read represent the best that Idaho, indeed that this nation, has to offer. To the wonderful law enforcement officers here today, I thank you. As a citizen, I am grateful for your service and dedication. As a prosecutor of more than 20 years, I am proud to have had the opportunity to work with you side by side as we strive to make our communities better, safer, happier. Together, as we pay tribute to the fallen today, let us all rededicate ourselves to our common goal of equality and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Before I introduce our next guest, I would like to have those in the audience who are on the committee that puts this event on, if you would please stand and be recognized. All the committee members that have, from our office, who put this on, and of course Dave and his staff. And if there's anyone here representing the wonderful flowers that we always give. And yes, keep standing. I know you're out there. We can see you. Thank you for what you did to put on today. Also, and I was supposed to do it in the introduction of the children choir, you notice that they held up a thin blue line. That was very significant. It's pointed, it was on purpose. It was to show, obviously, we are part of the thin blue line, holding this population together, quite frankly. So, once again, thank you for that and that significance. Our next speaker today is, as I say, a longtime law enforcement officer here, retired from law enforcement, and is now teaching the next generation of our law enforcement officers. Leroy has served many years in the police department and Amherst PD, and of course serving now as the director of the law enforcement program. And I believe we are graduating, you are graduating your first group through College of Western Idaho in July, which is the first time ever. So thank you for your service and thank you for being here today. Leroy Forsman.
Thank you, Sheriff. What an honor it is to be here with you today. As Reverend Roscoe said earlier, 37 officers have lost their lives so far this year. And we're only about 4 1/3 months through this year. How tragic. Yet, each and every day, you and many like you get up and put on the uniform and go out and do the job knowing that you could be put in harm's way at a moment's notice. And I'm grateful for that. Yesterday I got to spend some time at the Peace Officers Memorial service as well. I saw some friends, a lot of folks that we only see typically on that day every single year. How unfortunate that we only get together for those types of events. But I saw something yesterday that was really something that stood out in my mind as they unveiled Sergeant Greg Moore's name on the Peace Officers Memorial. And the unique circumstance was that his family had such an important role in unveiling that name. To watch his family come forward really kind of struck me as he's not the only one that made the ultimate sacrifice in this case, but his family did as well. Every member of his family, his wife, his children, his parents, his siblings, were all there in remembrance of him. What a somber reminder of the dedication of those folks around us. Most of you know I teach a kind of a unique course at the Police Academy. I teach successful police relationships and marriage. I also teach defensive tactics, so I get to throw people down and then teach them how to stay married, hopefully. Not at the same time, okay? My comments today really are going to surround the people that surround us as law enforcement professionals. We're certainly here to remember those who have gone before us and those who are in uniform today. But I want to pay some particular attention to the loved ones that support us in everything we do. We all know that when we get into the law enforcement field, it's not just us. If we have a family, wife, husband, children, parents, they get dragged into that field as well. Some of them unwillingly, some of them unwittingly, but they get dragged into it because it becomes a way of life, whether they want it to be or not. I can guarantee that many folks in uniform in this room have countless stories of being out shopping on their days off with their family, and the first thing they say when they see that bad guy walking down the aisle is left turn. And the families know right away, don't question why, just do it. And then once you get a couple of aisles over, you explain what the circumstances are. We've all been involved in those types of things. And that's unfortunately some of the negative of what we have to deal with, what we have to do. If you don't think your families are affected by what you do, you really need to think it through. Let me give a couple of examples from my life. As a public information officer, I was involved in reporting a large drug arrest for the Napa Police Department. I had no other efforts in it. I wasn't on the arrest. I didn't have anything else to do with it other than to meet with the media. And when the story ran at the 5 o'clock news hour, I had just gotten home a little bit after that, and our phone rang. I remember my 11-year-old daughter picking up the phone. Her face turned white. She told the caller to go to hell, and she threw the phone. Now, frankly, an 11-year-old in my home was not allowed to do that or say that, and I knew something was clearly wrong. And the caller somehow had gotten our home phone number, and based simply off of me being on the news, called and told my daughter how they were going to kill me. No child should have to hear that. No family member should have to be in a position where they hear threats against family members, parents, loved ones, just because that parent or loved one does a job like this. My wife of 35 years next month has been a pretty important part of my life, my career. The things that she's gone through and has stuck with me through those types of things. I'm going to tell you, as kind-hearted as she is, she's tough as nails. When there was a death threat made against me at one point, while I was on the job, I called home and told her the circumstances, and I told her, please take the kids and go to your parents' house in the neighboring town. And my wife said, no, people won't run me out of my own home. So she talked the kids into playing like they were on a camping trip, and they got the sleeping bags out, and they laid on the floor in the family room beneath window level. Good tactics. And they watched movies while the local jurisdiction put a car in front of my house to make sure they were safe. Wow. Again, nobody should have to do that. My final example is one that I really appreciate, and it really brings to light how supportive our folks are, but how deeply involved they are in careers like this. At Napa PD, we had packets that were prepared, and those packets had financial information and a variety of different things in case an officer was injured or killed in the line of duty. It had information on funeral wishes, special contact requests, who you should call, who you shouldn't call, and particularly the contact team that would go and notify the family. One day my wife was out in the yard just working in the flowers, and a patrol car from a neighboring agency pulled up in front of our house. And the officer got out, and my wife recognized him as one of the contact team that was in my file. What she didn't know was he was there on a follow-up call at a neighbor's house by using good tactics, parking not in front of their house, but in front of another. My wife immediately thought the worst and ran to the officer. And he ultimately understood what was going on and told her there was nothing to worry about, everything was okay, and he explained the circumstance. But my wife wasn't at peace, even to hear me talk on the phone until I got home. And she was able to hold me in her arms. She's told me on numerous occasions that she could never do the job that you do, wearing a badge and a gun. She's told me she could never go into a dark building knowing a bad guy was inside. She could never work a death scene where people died through brutal circumstances. She couldn't arrest somebody for a crime that was only describable as evil, and she would struggle comforting those people who had unspeakable loss. She said she's not that kind of hero. But I simply gave her this quote, and I've used it several times in my life. Sometimes standing against evil is more important than defeating it. The greatest heroes stand because it's right to do so. Such selfless courage is victory itself. And so today, to those heroes who have paid the ultimate sacrifice and gone before us, we simply say thank you, Godspeed, and rest in peace. To those who stand shoulder to shoulder with us, keeping the public safe, we say thank you, stay safe, or I've got your back. And to those who stand behind us, let they offer their unwavering love and support as we go out and do our jobs every day. We say thank you, and we couldn't do it without you.
Thank you, Leroy. Yes, you can clap for our speakers. That is such a solid fact about our families that are there living through some of these nightmares day and night, and for months and years to come. So, of course, we appreciate that and acknowledge that. And other people we don't often talk about in our law enforcement career and field is those who, as Leroy just put it a moment ago, who stand behind us, those who are wearing the badge out on the street, out on the dark corners in the middle of the night, on our drug units, our task force units, and that's our dispatch centers. Our dispatch centers who are there, and they are our lifeline. They are our lifeline to the officer directing the traffic out in the field. And they go through stress too. You know, you talked about going through and searching that dark building when we know bad guys are in there. I love that stuff. And every one of these people in uniform love that stuff. God allows us to do that. But as we're out there, blindly, all that's going back and forth is that radio traffic or that phone line or nothing to that dispatch center. And sometimes our commanders are in that dispatch center and they don't know what's going on. There's a lot of stress in those centers. And those people, those men and women who man those centers are remarkable in their own right. And then they try to find a time to decompress from what they have just heard or listened to or didn't listen to or didn't hear and worry because they feel when they're on that shift, those are their people out there too. So we want to always keep them in mind. Another group is our crime lab people. Throughout the state we have crime labs and ours is no different. We send them to the worst possible conditions we can find and say, gather the facts. And then they go to those worst possible conditions and see the worst possible things, take the measurements, take the photographs, package it all up, put the officers and the prosecutor, and then they find a way to decompress. And they have families. And they sometimes do and sometimes don't talk about that. So it's across the spectrum. And those are just a few examples that Leroy reminded me of in his talk. So the next speaker I'd like to introduce is one of those guys who doesn't talk much, so it's pretty remarkable to get him here. And that's Doug Hart from the FBI. I served under Doug as my supervisor with the FBI on the Violent Crime and Gang Task Force for a number of years. I have never met a finer individual or a better investigator or interviewer in my career, and perhaps in my life. He's been a great mentor to me, he's a great mentor to many people, and he is absolutely selfless. He's probably reaching close to 2 decades on the FBI SWAT team, even though he probably won't talk about that. Endless nights, endless travel, and when we need something from our local jurisdictions, these chiefs of police that are here with us today know it's a simple phone call, and he has resources flowing to us non-stop until the work is done. Doug Hart.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. I've attended this ceremony a number of occasions. This one's a little bit different, as when I opened the program, I saw that I was slated to speak. So my comments will be brief and from the heart, since I wasn't aware I was speaking today. Police Week has always been important to me. It is a time of the year for me, and I'm sure for many of us who are in law enforcement, that becomes an anchor that brings me back to the reasons why I chose this profession, and brings me back to think about and to honor and remember those who have made such a significant sacrifice in the performance of their duties. A German philosopher once said, "The things that matter most should never be at the mercy of the things that matter the least." And I think we all fall into that trap. Our day-to-day lives, in our work and in our families, become so filled with minutia, with getting here and there, and the busyness of our lives, that we tend to forget and stray from that which is truly important. And so for me, this week, each time that I have the privilege of attending a ceremony and to turn off my phone and to sit and think about these men and women whose names will be read shortly, is particularly important to me. Much has been said from the pulpit by Wendy and Leroy regarding the latest name that was added to the law enforcement memorial yesterday, Sergeant Moore of the Coeur d'Alene Police Department. As I attended the ceremony yesterday and was visiting with some colleagues, and the crowd had dispersed, I looked over and saw Sergeant Moore's, excuse me, the FBI is as tough as you think. There must be some dust in the air. I saw Sergeant Moore's son standing in front of the memorial for a photograph, and he wasn't smiling. And that is real. And it is our obligation, our sacred duty, to take care of those who have made this sacrifice, to watch over their families, to watch over each other as we go forth and enter into those situations which are dangerous to us. And it is my hope and my prayer that we will never forget our obligation to these men and women. The director of the FBI refers to law enforcement work as work with moral content. None of us chose law enforcement because of its income potential. We didn't choose it for its fringe benefits or its easy hours. We chose it because we felt a desire and an obligation to serve our fellow man. That is an honorable thing, and in times where the respect shown to law enforcement is eroding, I thank all of you for your service. I am proud to be counted among you, and thank you again for your time and your attendance here today.
And just like his predecessor, Ernie Wyatt, who was invited to speak here today a year ago, he too came up and said, "I didn't know I was speaking." Indicative of the FBI, I'm not sure what the secrecy is, but as my mentor, he always finds fault in some way so I can improve mine. So, point taken, Your Honor. So our next speaker didn't have much time to plan either. John graciously joined us here today, and I asked John to do this for a couple of reasons. And some of those reasons are that we are here remembering those who have died in the line of duty. We don't often talk about the people who almost died in the line of duty. And John is one of those individuals. And he's a hero to me. He's a hero to many. And I remember the night it happened. and we were out working, and we all raced to the scene. And I got to thinking about that the other day, and how pointed that is, that a man of John's fortitude, perseverance, and self-constitution gets through what he got through, his family what they went through, and yet he picks up that badge, and he picks up that gun belt, and he goes back out into the fight, knowing full well, knowing better than most of us, what could happen. With that, John Parsons.
All right. First of all, I just want to say it's a privilege to be here with fellow law enforcement, family, friends, and all you supporters. After being injured in the line of duty in 2010, I had to make one of the toughest decisions in my life. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about finding another line of work. It is often said that law enforcement is family, and that really rang true for me. I realized that the men and women that I work with are not just co-workers, but individuals that are willing to give the ultimate sacrifice for me and the community. So after many discussions with my wife, immediate family members, we decided that I would return as a police officer. I realized that I loved the job too much. I wasn't going to let somebody else's actions take that away from me. Not only did I decide to return as a police officer, but I decided to take on more responsibilities within our department to make myself and those around me better. Last week, I was fortunate enough to attend the National Peace Week in Washington, D.C. It was an honor to stand alongside thousands of law enforcement officers from across the world to remember those who had given the ultimate sacrifice. Although, what really stood out to me was a reminder of the reminder that we're not limited to just the brothers and sisters here in Canyon County, or even the state of Idaho for continued support. But we have an entire nation of brothers in blue who are willing to go to battle with us. So with that, I just want to end and remind you all that let's remember to protect our own, train hard, stay vigilant, make sure that we give every effort that all of us go home at the end of every shift. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you for being here today and sharing your life with us and being out there every day and night. Really, truly leading our efforts to do what we do. We're very proud to stand with you. Next, I'd like to take just a moment to before we do the honor roll, which is I will have the chiefs of police and sheriffs and some other representatives, and we will place a rose on this white table before you in remembrance and honor of our fallen 71 officers in the state of Idaho. But as has been mentioned by our speakers today, 37 people have been killed in the line of duty so far this year. And I'd like to take this time, and I ask for your patience, to read you their names. I think they deserve that, and I think their families and their departments would like us to do that in remembrance of them. Thomas Cottrell, Jr. Douglas Scott Barney II. I've also read their departments. Thomas was Danville Police Department, Ohio. Douglas Scott Barney II, Unified Police Department of Greater Salt Lake City, Utah. Adam Conrad, Marion County Sheriff's Office, Illinois. Scott McGuire, United States Department of Homeland Security. Jason Gooding, Seaside Police Department, Oregon. Derek Gear, Mesa County Sheriff's Office, Colorado. Scott Valentine, Tulare County Sheriff's Office, California. Mark Lofton, Hartford County Sheriff's Office, Maryland. Patrick Daly, Hartford County Sheriff's Office, Maryland. Gregory Barney, Riverdale Police Department, Georgia. Jason Mosier, Fargo Police Department, North Dakota. Lee Tart, Mississippi Department of Public Safety, Mississippi. Nate Kerrigan, Park County Sheriff's Office, Colorado. Ashley Marie Guinan, Prince William County Police Department, Virginia. Travis Russell, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, Colorado. David Stephen Hofer, Ulysses Police Department, Texas. Scott Fitzgerald, South Jackson Police Department, Illinois. Sean Colin, New Jersey State Police Department, New Jersey. John Robert Cotfilia Jr., Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Florida. Nathan Taylor, California Highway Patrol, California. Jackie D. Colson, Prince George's County Police Department, Maryland. David Ortiz, El Paso Police Department, Texas. Joseph Partero, West Virginia State Police, West Virginia. Thomas Clardy, Massachusetts State Police, Massachusetts. Alan Lee Jacobs, Greenville Police Department, South Carolina. Carl Coons, Howard County Sheriff's Office, Indiana. Susan Louise Farrell, Des Moines Police Department, Iowa. Carlos Puente Morales, Des Moines Police Department, Iowa. Jeffrey Nichols, Texas Highway Patrol, Texas. Chad Philip Dermeyer, Virginia State Police, Virginia. Stephen Michael Smith, Columbus Division of Police, Ohio. Jose Daniel Barraza, U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Jorge Ramos, Florida Department of Corrections, Florida. Anthony T.J. Freeman, Bibb County Sheriff's Office, Georgia. Brad D. Lancaster, Kansas City Police Department, Kansas. And in the last 2 days, an officer in Ohio and an officer in Phoenix, Arizona lost their lives in line of duty. And I'll add to that 9 K-9 deputies and officers who also lost their lives in service to their communities with their partners. K-9 Jojo, K-9 Jethro, K-9 Jack, K-9 Ogar, K-9 Krieger, K-9 Cobus, K-9 Betcha, K-9 Aaron, K-9 Vigor, K-9 Reefer, K-9 Nicky, and K-9 Aldo. At this time, I'd like to ask our chiefs and the designated personnel to assist us with our honor roll, and I will ask Wendy Olson and Leroy Forsman to stand at the podium to read the names of the fallen officers of Idaho.
Greg Moore, 2015.
Joshua Eggleston, 2009.
Monty Leroy Matthews, 2009.
Lee Newville, 2007.
Christopher John Hensley, 2003.
William J. Mann, 2002.
Scott Palmer, 2001.
James Brian Molson, 2001.
Philip Charles Anderson, 2001.
Linda Carol Huff, 1998.
Mark Arlen Stahl, 1997.
Dennis L. Remington, 1995.
Ronald W. Feldner, 1994.
William Deegan, 1992.
John T. Houston, 1989.
James Donald Miller, 1989.
Brent Jacobson, 1989.
James E. Simono, 1985.
William H. Pogue, 1981.
Wilson Conley Elms, 1981.
Douglas M. Dean, 1979.
E. C. Chuck Ashton, 1976.
Samuel B. Buntrock, 1974.
Howard M. Schaefer, 1972.
Ross Flavel, 1972.
William J. Philpott, 1971.
Edward E. Davis, 1971.
Ralph T. Russell, 1970.
Walter Cox, 1970.
John H. Combs, 1969.
Morley H. Cannon, 1969.
Vern M. Royce, 1968.
Bill H. Miller, 1968.
Stanley L. Larson, 1967.
James A. Walker, 1966.
James M. Alexander, 1965.
Daniel Platt Woodland, 1964.
Benjamin T. Newman, 1962.
Keith Judd, 1961.
E. A. Hans Hansen, 1957.
Fred L. Peterson, 1951.
John C. Ferris, 1946.
Carl F. Siegman, 1945.
John Glenn, 1940.
George A. Methven, 1940.
F. F. Bob Hunter, 1939.
Craig Taylor Bracken, 1939.
Harry Merrill, 1938.
Henry C. Gibbons, 1935.
Fontaine Cooper, 1935.
Robert S. Walton, 1934.
Thomas Russell, 1934.
Hugh Nichols, 1931.
Leonard Roth Cummings Jr., 1928.
Louis J. Bancroft, 1928.
Billy Withington Jr., 1928.
Nathan H. Suter, 1926.
Gordon A. Harris, 1924.
Sam Garbutt, 1924.
Neil Simpkins, 1924.
Harold J. Mossman, 1921.
Charles H. Torrance, 1921.
J.C. Sharon, 1918.
L. J. Taylor, 1914.
Lafayette B. Hampton, 1914.
W. J. McFadden, 1913.
Elbert Percy Sweet, 1904.
John Henry Hayes, 1904.
Wallace Everett Cool, 1901.
David Stoddard, 1890.
And Y. Walter Coffin, 1883.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ma'am. Chiefs of Police, our federal partners, thank you for your leadership as we guide our men and women every day out there. Thank you for being here, mayors, commissioner. Thank you for city councilmen. Thank you for making those resources available so we can do what we do. We appreciate it. This has been a very nice ceremony, and I appreciate what all of our speakers have said today and the time that they have given to be here with us today, as well as appreciate you and your time that you have spent today and the time that you allowed us to be here. Real quickly, as we retire from here, we will follow the piper out of the building. And when the piper goes down the aisle, if I could have our law enforcement officers who are at the front of the room, and those in uniform, fall in behind the piper and follow him out. We would then ask all of our guests, of course, our speakers and others, to follow us outside the building, where we will join the children's choir as they release 71 blue balloons into the sky in remembrance of our fallen comrades. And before we go, I always like to leave with a quote, if I may. It's something that the staff found for me today, and I appreciate them finding this. It says by Winston Churchill, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." And I thought that was very appropriate for today's message, that we will continue, we will stand our watch, and we will protect and we will serve, regardless of the dangers. Thank you all for coming. I'll turn it over to Piper.
gentlemen, when the children release the balloons, thank you again for being here, for joining us in this celebration. When the balloons are released, there will be a 21-gun salute, just so you're not frightened. We really appreciate the Army National Guard and the Honor Guard being here for this event. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, release your balloons.
Iron Heart. Go. Stand by. Ready. Hey. Hey. Fire. Ready. Hey. Fire. Ready. Hey. Fire. Ready. Freezing. Oh.